So, we go again. Number 47 of the Darkness to Light Godcast. Welcome back. My name is Jim McFadyen from the Vortex Centre for Wellbeing. Hope you're well. And this one is on the back of, again, my own direct experience, my life experience, which is all I'm really doing on here is talking about, the stuff that I've been through, how I'm living my life, the things that are, real for me, the stuff that's, unfolding that I'm trying to share to help get this world back to the way that it's meant to be, to get it back into, the natural way, the natural path, back to the way I do believe that the divine, whatever that means, God, consciousness, was meant it to be. And this subject today is something that I do believe is a huge part of that. This one is called marriage. And it's off the back of me and my beautiful wife just celebrating 25 years, a 25-year silver wedding anniversary. 2nd of June, which was 2 days ago, so this is 4th of June, 2025. We were married 2nd of June 2000. And really, first and foremost, just fascinating. We were away for a week's holiday together. Didn't quite manage to, because of flights and one thing or another, didn't quite manage to be away for our anniversary, and some kind of work commitments as well for my wife. But a chance to reflect over the last 25 years, from, and even before that, since we met when I was 20 years old, so going back 33 years ago. And, from the minute we met, and probably even before that, there's obviously a lot of reflection. We went to school together. Jill was a year above me at school, and didn't really know each other at school. It was just a kind of, hiya, how you doing, in the corridor, that kind of stuff. And then how we met after school, and in terms of when we became adults, I was probably, what age was I? 18, 19 maybe. Jill's the only girl I've ever asked out in my life. I've never ever, I was always quite shy when I was growing up, didn't have any sisters, or never really felt comfortable running about females when I was young. So to pluck up the courage to ask her to go out with me, and then the story that came off the back of that, she basically, whatever you want to call it, said no, and it didn't happen, and how we eventually met, and then I basically knocked her back, which is more or less kind of at the time, probably not really, being honest, but and then how we eventually met, which was our cousins. My cousin married Jill's cousin. So I'd heard about it for years and years, and you were from school, and we eventually met at a wedding with both our cousins, which sounds really kind of a bit inbred, doesn't it? But it's far enough removed that it's okay in terms of the genetics and all that kind of stuff. So my cousin married her cousin. We met at a wedding. I was 20 years old, so I'm going to work out what year that was. It was like 8 years before we were married, and then for the very first day, for the very first kiss on that day, then we've been together, and what a journey it's been. It really has. It's been 33 years of, every possible life experience and shared experience you could imagine. The highs and the lows, the ebbs and the flows, darkness and the light, the ups and the downs, obviously those who are aware of my journey. Jill's been with me every single step of the way for that, which is something I'm obviously not only grateful for, but she's the primary reason that I'm still here and been able to do this work. The support she's given me over the last 25 years since we've been married, and even before that, when this journey began for me. Right to the point back to before Ibiza, and then during Ibiza. And the support she gave me then, and I was really, I wasn't worth two bob, there was nothing left of me. I was really, really sick, and almost, my life was literally on the line, how she was really the only one. Obviously my mum, my dad and my brother was there at the time as well, and Jill's, the extended family, Jill's family, her two brothers as well, but it was really Jill that was with me all the whole time, going through it, in my real darkest, my darkest days, the days of despair, and when I was suicidal and I had no feelings, no emotions, and just being broken, and really, really not well. What she went through and what we went through together as a couple. And I remember right back at the time, the thing when we get married, the whole thing about, sick and sin, one of the in sickness and in health and all that kind of stuff, the marriage vows. I remember Jill saying way before that, the love that we had, it's like thick and thin, so go through the thick and the thin together, but also sick and sin. which I'd never heard before. I think she made it up, and it's always stuck with me. You know, we've certainly been through every single bit of that together on this journey. It's been an incredible journey. We started out as Waynes. You know, you think back to even when we got married, I was 29 or 30, maybe just about 29, probably 29. And you think, I probably think I'm still the same age now. So when I got married, I was probably about 17, it felt like. And just now, I feel a wee bit older than that, but it's just funny how, you know, you look at yourself in the mirror and you see your body changing, and you see the changes you've been on this journey, especially when it's intentional and you're aware of like, the bodily changes and the mental changes and the emotional changes and the consciousness changes, hopefully, which we have certainly been through in different ways. But you know, the looking back to, you know, who we met as, which was really a couple of Waynes. I was in the process of, you know, trying to take on the world, and money was everything to me. Not everything, but it was a huge part for me. You know, I was making a lot of money at the time. I was invested in myself, you know, in terms of my appearance, like clothes and watches and all the stuff, the trappings of success. You know, that word success, fancy motor and. Working hard to earn the paper to buy the things. That was my, you know, where I started this. I was really just a child, and you know, you look back over the different stages and the different bits, you know, to the relationship and how what we've been through together, but how we've evolved and grown as a couple, absolutely, but really importantly, you know, individually as well. Something I'm going to talk about today, you know, the importance of the significance of doing your own thing, you know, and basically getting it for yourself, and at the same time, you know, marriage and what it's all about. What I certainly believe it to be about is, you know, being on the same side and doing it together as well. You know, so marriage is really significant to me. I think it's a big part of the problems that we see in the world just now. The fact that marriage, for whatever reason, whether it's been done by design, you know, it's been certainly devalued, and easy to see like, how that's happened and probably why that's happened. I think back to when I was at, you know, primary school, and I think there was certainly only one person that was in our class, or my class, that I knew of anyway, that came from what you would call a broken home. So there was no dad, basically, which always seems to be the way, doesn't it? The dad seems to be the one that fucks off, and the mum is left to deal, you know, with raising the children and basically nurturing and caring for them and raising them. But during, you know, that time in primary school, I remember being aware of it. It was completely alien, you know, things like divorce. I started to hear about that when I was probably in primary school from America. You'd hear about divorces and, you know, people splitting up and families breaking up, and it was just something that was never really, where we were anyway in central Scotland, it was never a thing. This was back into the probably early 80s, where, you know, every single person that I knew had a mum and a dad, you know, unless, you know, illness or they possibly died young, but certainly like divorces and people splitting up and even like people having affairs and all that kind of stuff, that wasn't a thing. Certainly never ever heard it and was never aware of it. And you know, you think back to that was only what 45 years ago, and you think to be where it just now, you know, and you think of the amount of people that I know that are happily married. I know quite a few of them because of this work, but not as many as I would like. And really interesting, you know, almost how polarising even the subject of marriage is. I put a post up the other day about our anniversary and marriage, and I lost 8 followers on Instagram instantly, you know, because people are looking at it and it doesn't line up from where they're at for whatever reason or what they believe in, or, you know, and then they stop following you. It's fascinating, you know, this whole thing and how it goes together. This is why I love social media so much. It lets me see where the world is, which, you know, coming back from our holiday and going through Glasgow Airport twice, as well as being where we were as well. We're up on Catalonia, up the northeast coast of Spain, beautiful part of the world. And just being aware of like, where people are and having time to observe, not through design or, you know, any wrong intention, but just listening and being in the same space as other people, which we never really are. I'm always in this kind of vortex bubble, but when you get into that environment of being around about other people, whether it's on the beach or in the sea or, you know, the location we were staying, or you're out for a meal, you get to see where people are, and it's really interesting how far society has fallen. Especially on the way back, you know, because over there it seemed to be that they seem to have a lot of the good stuff going on in terms of obviously the weather helps and the diet, and which just lifts everything instantly, you know. But when you come back and standing in that like a cattle grid queue in Glasgow Airport to go through the scanners, and just, you know, the realisation of how society and how trapped we are and how powerless we are, in terms of even being able to travel. And then seeing people, especially people coming back to Scotland, it feels like, I'm so sorry, but it's the truth. I said to Jill in the airport, it's amazing. You see like the Europeans in the airport when you're flying back. We flew back from Girona, it's a really small airport. And it's amazing the amount of people coming back to Scotland that actually look absolutely done in and knackered after a holiday. A lot of them look broken, obviously because of what they've been doing to themselves over the previous week or whatever it was. It's in Glasgow Airport, it was the same. The amount of people that just looked absolutely bust, because they've been killing themselves with the bevy and overindulging in whatever way on their holiday. A time you're meant to be recovering and recuperating and getting back into balance. So real interesting to see where society is. Real interesting to see and how it feeds into this subject of marriage. Again, I talk about the way and the way that it's meant to be, the natural path, and this is a big part of it. Whatever your belief system is, there comes a point where there's right and wrong and truth and falsehood. And male and female, that's it as far as I'm concerned. That's how God designed it. There may be a couple of, I think there's a couple of in the animal kingdom, or maybe insects, that they can basically go both ways. But certainly as far as we go as a species, then male and female is the only way it was designed and the way that it was meant to be. Obviously in terms of procreation as well, which is a huge part of this. So anything other than that, that's been man-made and fabricated for whatever reason, whatever reason you believe that to be. And, this path, this journey, this, mission that I'm on to help try and get mankind back to the way that it's meant to be is very much in alignment with that, is to get back to the natural path, God's plan, which was and is male and female. And I do believe that marriage is a big bit of that. For so many different reasons, the role the man and the wife play together. And again, I'm only speaking from my own experience, but the role that you play as a couple in a relationship, and then how that, for yourself first and foremost, and then obviously how that feeds into if you're ever blessed with children, and the example that you basically show them. We were both blessed, myself and my wife. My mum and dad, my dad, God bless him, is still heartbroken 5 years later after my mum died, because he loved her so much. My mum was everything to him. And we grew up in a household of love. And they had their square goes and they had their battles, and it was fiery at times, and a few times my mum was leaving him. I can remember him when I was away. But at the same time, the family unit, they always worked their way through whatever. There wasn't much of that, but there was always, the family unit and, the significance of that, and us as a the kids and the mum and dad and that whole thing together. That was always a priority. And my wife's mum and dad are the exact same. They're both in their 80s, and they've been together forever. I think they're going through, I think it's 60 years married, just married, which makes us look like we're just playing at it. It's just fascinating to see how we both came from those type of families, really blessed. And obviously you pick up, what you see and what your belief system and what you experience and about you, with the role that I see my mum and dad play. Mum and dad, they were always for each other. The amount of challenges that we see, with basically adults, man and wife, couples cheating each other and having affairs and that kind of stuff, that was something that was never even a consideration. Possibly as well because of the religious upbringing we had, the Catholic faith and all that kind of stuff. It was big at the time. On the significance of marriage and love and faith and trust and all that kind of stuff, and that's what we grew up in. So that became normal for us. So no surprise that I was able to attract, and Jill as well. We both came from very similar backgrounds. The whole thing about opposites attracting, I've never believed in that. I really do believe that vibrations and birds of a feather do flock together, and that's certainly been the case for us. And it's the relationship and how it's supposed to be formed, as far as I can see it, and the different roles that are played within that, the role that a mammy plays and the role that a dad plays. Again, when you think back, I remember when houses started to split up. I would probably be at high school when you really started to hear it, probably towards the end of my high school, I'm not going to say career, time I went to high school, but you were then aware of very much more in the news. And certainly, people I was at school with that were in single parent families. And although you didn't really get to know the ins and outs and all the kind of, the details of it, the evidence was there, in terms of the challenges we faced. Again, probably 99% of them were mammies that were working a couple of jobs, and trying to raise a family on their own, and all the challenges that come with that, in terms of kids having to feed themselves and fend for themselves and tend to themselves, and even the lack of support that they would come from having a father figure within the household. That's really obviously very, very challenging, and I would say I've always felt like it's been done by design. And it's really evident just now, this whole move that's on just now to empower women. Now, I'm all about empowerment for everybody, I really am, and I think it's really important for everybody to go and fulfil their potential. But I think, again, and this is where it's also very challenging, because we're so far removed from nature and the way nature intended it, especially over the last probably 5, 10, 15 years. The amount of challenges we face, whether it's from the food, whether it's from the medication, whether it's from just the belief system and the absolute literal filth and bullshit that's on, social media and, all the stuff that's basically being fed into us 24/7. It's impossible to escape it. And very, very easy to find it, I would imagine, if you're that way inclined. I feel so, for the young ones just now, trying to make their way through this world, and just the amount of, it's like literal porn. As soon as it's fascinating me. I use Facebook to post, and that's it. Instagram's the same. I don't really follow anybody except my real inner circle. But even on your feed and things, there's suggestions of things to, probably because of my age, and they obviously know your the demographics and your sex and all that kind of stuff. But the things that's suggested to you by the whoever it is that's controlling this, for the young ones that are looking for anything that's off this path of righteousness and light, it's so difficult, and it's so easy. And the amount of kids that I know, with negative addictions towards sex, towards porn, towards all that kind of stuff, it's something that if that media and that medium wasn't there, then obviously things would be a lot easier. And the separation game, again, this is a big part of that, the separation game of the families and the unit of the families. I do really feel that's been done by design. We watched it happen way back when I was growing up, and you heard about it in America all the time. Then it started to feed in here, and it was before it even came to Scotland, it was very much in London. My dad used to say America was 20 years in front of us, and London was like 10 years in front of us. Up in Scotland, very, very different then, very kind of almost backward. Even the desire, I remember the desire to get a McDonald's. We'd been on holiday to America when we were young, and the fact there was no McDonald's here, what a blessing that was, and how I remember longing for a McDonald's to come. There was none of that fast food chains or any of that kind of stuff, and really now when you fast forward to 2025 and where we're at just now, how when something happens in America and how quick it just basically ripples on about the world, or anywhere in the world, these different trends and these influencers, these poisonous, devil worshipping, just heartless, soulless, just lifeless beings that are, whether it's done by design or whether it's done for their own self-gain, whether they have sold their soul and they're doing it for impure intentions for their own self-gain in this lifetime, how quick the influence that they can have in terms of how they normalise things for especially young ones that are growing up. That's something that's it's very, very interesting, and again, me being old, 53 now, and thinking back to the way that it used to be, in terms of the family unit, where the mum would basically, Jim Rohn used to say, love like a mother and protect like a father. How the mum was basically the home keeper, and even the role of being a housewife. What a noble profession, doesn't even cover it. That ability to keep the house together and to have food on the table, cooking every day and cleaning and basically nurturing and protecting and loving and guiding and just being there all the time. That's something that isn't there and hasn't been there for a long time, and that's something that I grew up with, and you didn't actually obviously really kind of value it at the time or even know, because it was so normal. And at the same time, the father's job to go out and provide for the family. Again, that's the way that it was, I believe, supposed to be. That's the way that nature intended it. When you look at the individual sexes and what they both bring to in their natural state, not just now when everybody's compromised because of, and I just mentioned, the different foods and the medications and the poisons that have basically been, whether that's affecting, the sex genes within us and how it affects the reproductive system and all that kind of stuff. But the way that it used to be, the way that it was meant to be in its natural state, there was obviously very defined roles that seemed to work, and fast forward to now and you look at the evidence of where the world is, and that question of like, how is it going and how is it working? You just need to look at not just the children but the grandchildren now that have came from broken homes. You know, when you come from a broken home, then obviously that becomes normalised, and you know, the damage that's done with that, you know, with parents splitting up, and you know how that's carried forward, that trauma is carried forward. If it's not resolved, and let's be honest, when is that ever really truly resolved? Especially with traditional means of therapy like talking therapies, or even worse, medication. Somebody gets medicated to deal with, you know, something that's happened in their early years. You know, children. The significance of like life-changing events that happen before you're 7, when your brain's in that theta state, you're just kind of about like taking in these programs and picking up the stresses and strains of the environment you're in. If that's a toxic environment, if there's fighting, if there's abuse, you know, if there's violence, if there's, you know, before you even get to things like drug taking and you know, alcoholism and, you know, all the other stuff that goes on. I mean, the trauma that comes for that, and how that basically like predetermines your entire life, unless you work out a way to break that pattern and reprogram yourself and transcend beyond that. So few people can obviously do that. But then how that feeds into their own relationships, and then what comes for that, you know, so you've got broken people meeting broken people that are basically having children. I mean, some of the stories that I've heard personally about, I mean, how quick, you know, somebody can go into a relationship, and it's almost like an accessory sometimes, the children now, you know, that they basically, their pals have got one, and they basically want one, mostly females, some guys as well, but mostly obviously young females, and you hear about how quick they go into a relationship and they decide to have children, and then obviously the amount of times I've seen it play out over the years where it just turns into an absolute plane crash, and then, you know, who takes the brunt of that? It's normally the children, isn't it? You know, so the way that it used to be, it's definitely something that I think, in fact I feel, in fact I know, work better than the way it is just now, especially in terms of society. The amount of kids that I see up to Lanark, which is a really nice town, up to Lanark on a Saturday night, you know, and you up to the supermarket, and you'll see them like dozens and dozens and dozens of wains, all dressed in black, you know, looking just for something to happen, like looking to create some, there's normally a fight not far away, or there's some sort, you can feel the drama, you can feel the stress, because they're looking for something to do, obviously. But, you know, if the parents are involved in that, and the parents are able to be involved in that because they're not like too stressed out dealing with their own stuff, then all that would definitely change, you know. So the way it's meant to be, the man and the wife, the husband and the wife, you know, the marriage together, in union, as a team, as one, getting through this life together. I believe that's the way that it's meant to be. I believe that's the way that it should be. And how we get that back, I have no idea. I really don't. I'm just talking about where I'm at just now, and the challenge that I face, and it is an absolute solution. And you know, the problems we face in society, and you know what's coming up in society in terms of the things we're about to face. You look at the news just now. You look at the world. I was away for it for a week, tuned in a wee bit, and you watch what's going on. You know, between Russia and Ukraine, and what's happening in Israel, and you know the kind of how this seems to be escalating towards a war. There's so many problems that we face, and there's so many challenges, and here's me on talking about the significance of marriage. I'm just trying to keep it in the light. I'm trying to keep the solutions. I'm trying to offer the answers as to how we make it back to the way that it's meant to be. And this information might be for years down the line, long after all the events that look like they're going to unfold, and we're trying to pick up the pieces. But certainly from my experience, what I learned with my own parents growing up, the role models, what I learned from them, you know, what I picked up from them, what my wife picked up from her mum and dad, you know, how we were able to carry that into our relationship, and then how we've done it over the course of the last, say, 25 years since we've been married. That was just before, I just started getting into this work just before that, you know, and really kind of understanding, you know, how to make a marriage work. You know, first and foremost, how do you attract the right person? It's so significant, you know, and so many people meet the wrong person in the wrong environment, in the wrong state, whether it's drug-induced or drink-induced or need-induced, you know, necessity or desperation-induced. It's so many people over the years. I could probably name half a dozen couples that have came in, and I've been working with one person individually, and they're really like craving. You know, they want to get married, they want to be in a relationship, they're looking for children, and they're looking for the right person, and it's like, how do you do that? And I think back to how we met, and this was kind of probably lucky, which is a word I don't really use. At the time when we met, I was absolutely flying. I really was. I was in such a good place. I was in that day in particular. Maybe because I knew Jill was going to be at the wedding, and there was a wee bit of sneakiness going on that I was going to be sitting pretty close to her. I felt at one of the tables. They were kind of trying to set us up, it felt like. And, you know, so I was just absolutely flying. I had a few quid in my pocket. I was making good money at the time. I was working hard, fitting windows at the time. I had a few bob in my pocket. I was, you know, best of gear on, like feeling good. Wasn't a drinker, didn't drink at the time. I was probably going out that night, actually. I was probably going out to party that night at that time. So I was really on the up and up, you know. I was really kind of feeling good and good within myself that day. And Jill was absolutely flying as well. So no mistake that when we met, we were both in this really kind of, as Abraham Hicks would say, a high-flying place. And that vibration of the two of us together was just a spark that basically, whatever happened that day, you know, the way it ignited and the way we got run about each other, it's been every single day to this day. You know, I've never ever wanted to be a wayfarer or never ever wanted to look in any other direction in terms of any other females. Biggest challenge that I faced coming back from holidays, how much I missed her, which sounds, I can imagine some of the guys going, look, wanting to throw up, but that's love, you know, that's real love. My biggest thing is spending time with my wife. I want to spend time with my wife. I love spending time with my wife. My wife's my best pal. I love being with her, you know, she's hilarious, she's funny. The vibration in terms of how in tune we are together, in terms of doing similar things. Again, when you talk about opposites attract and, you know, how vibrations and all that kind of stuff, the biggest bit of advice I would ever give people, and this is the way that it's worked for people in the past, and there's a good number, there's probably 6 couples now that have came in desperate to meet somebody, and the ones that have really stuck to the advice that I gave them, which is really, really simple, because when I meet people, a lot of the time they're really not well, they're normally sick, suffering from whatever, and that's the wrong time to meet somebody. The same as when you're pissed in the disco at 3 o'clock in the morning or standing in the taxi queue or waiting for a kebab. That's probably the wrong time you want to meet the mother of your children or the father of your wains. Because unless that's how you live your life and that's how you're basically going to continue going forward, if that's their natural habitat and that's how they live their life, then good luck to you. But anybody that's running about this work, anybody that's probably listening to this work, for me, the only way to meet somebody is when you really get your shit together for yourself, is when you're absolutely flying. When you're in that place that Abraham would call alignment, you know, when you're in that flow state and being happy and being joyful and expecting, you know, and looking for somebody, actively looking for somebody. Not going about like some sort of stalker, you know, but just having an anticipation that it's about to unfold and having the faith that everything is going to be okay is hugely important. I certainly did that day that I met Jill. I just had a knowing. I was as cocky as fuck at the time as well. I was probably overconfident. No, I hit for myself in terms of I've never been vain or my own self-image, not that kind of way I'm talking about, but just like a self-confidence and feeling good within myself, happy within myself, like self-assured, that kind of stuff. That's certainly how I felt that day. I remember I went to that wedding and I had a pair of like linen jeans and it was like a Terry Toyland t-shirt on. I remember one of Jill's uncles having a real go at me because I didn't have a suit on, and I remember thinking, well, I felt comfortable and I felt good, and the gear was amazing. It was the best of stuff, and it was way before its time back then. And I remember that obviously I left the wedding with my bird, the best looking bird in the place, and we're still together to this day. So whatever I did, you know, being and following my own drum and being true to myself and being myself, obviously worked. So to be in alignment, to be happy, to be joyful, to be absolutely flying, that's the bit of advice I would give you. Anybody that's looking for like Mr. or Mrs. Right, don't try and find them when you're struggling. Don't try and find somebody when you're depressed or you're anxious or you're having panic attacks or you're worried or you're stressful or you're in a state of survival, because what you'll normally find is you'll attract somebody at the exact same level, and then if you get better or if they get better, then it's not really going to work. In my experience with relationships at work, again, us as my biggest, you know, the guide that I use for this, we have done it in a way that it's been really, really interesting because of this work, because great for the beginning, great relationship. There was a wee bit of rocky period of time when I went off the rails a wee bit, and before I went to Ibiza, you know, in terms of I was wanting to be a DJ at the time. I was wanting to travel the world. I had enough of the family business, and that's the only time we were probably a wee bit, we were on different pages for a short period of time, but as if God has some divine plan and says, like, fucking no chances together, because basically when I went to Ibiza, Jill was coming to Ibiza the next week with a friend and came over and literally saw me when I was in my worst state. I'd just been released from the jail in Ibiza that day, and basically put me back together again, and my dad came and got me, you know. So but apart from that kind of really kind of short period of time, then we've always been together. Now the way that we do it, again, because of this work, and Jill has always allowed me, and this is really important, I think, it's to do your own thing within the relationship. One of the biggest challenges you'll see is like when people are in a relationship as a couple in a marriage and they need to do everything together. That's something that we've never done. We do loads of stuff, in fact almost everything together, but at the same time we've very much got our own lives and our own, you know, separate paths going on at the same time. That's something I learned a long time ago. Wayne Dyer started it talking about your children, how your children come through you but they're not for you, and I remember that, hearing that at the time, and the stage that I was at, I was getting up out of bed at 3 o'clock every single morning. God bless my wife, I mean, she has been through that her whole life. Even this morning, again, it was early, 33 years later, when I'm basically still climbing out of bed in the middle of the night, waking up to go and sit in the presence of the divine. And I remember at the time, you know, how much I was into this kind of work. I remember the first set of tape cassettes from Abraham Hicks that I got. I was ironing my karate suit at the time, and Abraham at the time, it was coming through Esther Hicks. It's channeled information, but it was really different back then. This is before it went, you know, probably more mainstream. Before I even heard it through Wayne Dyer, I think it was, and it was a real kind of squawky voice. And I remember Jill looking at me, standing ironing my karate suit, and like, what the fuck are you listening to? What is that you're listening to? And never once did she question me, or never once did she try and like turn me away from it. As weird and as mental and as, you know, just out there as that would have been at the time, never once did she ever question. She always allowed me to go on my own path and follow my own, you know, this journey that I'm on, this intentional mission that I'm on just now. She's never ever questioned it. Went down to see Wayne Dyer for the first time in London, probably 15 years ago, and at a time, and interesting looking back, we had this conversation years later where Jill, in the presence of Wayne Dyer, you know, who at the time for me was like a literal god, he was like a living walking saint. I had spent probably 10 years listening to Wayne Dyer at this time, and everything that he released, I used to listen to him every single day, my meditations, the amount of teachers that came through Wayne Dyer for me, and that, you know, Jill went to London with me, and looking back, we spoke about it years later, she never got a single thing from it, didn't get much, not a single thing, she didn't get anything from it. It was almost like she couldn't hear it, but went with me and supported me and, you know, let me do my thing with it, and as she's always done. And the biggest thing that we do, the most significant part that we do as a team, is we get it for ourselves first and foremost. You know, I get it for myself every single day. Jill, if you get into our bedroom when I'm away between 3, 4, 5 in the morning, whatever it is, for my meditation, and then when Jill gets up, probably 6:30, 7, she'll do between an hour and a half, 2 hours yoga every single morning before her day begins. So that's her way of getting into alignment, you know. And what we do is we basically tend to each other, you know, in our own way. So I get it for myself first, she'll get it for herself, and then we meet in the middle. And at the same time, and this is the thing with marriage, for us, it seems to be easy. We've never fought, we don't fight, we don't argue, we don't fall out. We're very much in the same team, we're best pals. She is everything to me. I love her more than anything in the world. You know, she's in this stage we're getting to just now where eventually it'll go back to being just the two of us again once our kids move on. Me, Jill, and probably the Doug, which I'm very much looking forward to, you know, just so we can get like some real quality time together for the next 20, 30 years, just me and my girl. It's going to be awesome. But the kind of the same time of being in that relationship together, it's the expansion that comes through, even for us that it's really, really good, it's still no easy, you know, because these times are difficult, these times are challenging, and even with awareness in this path that we are on, you know, this intentional life that we are living, both of us together, with the awareness that we've got, you know, the ability and the awareness, you know, to, especially when you're struggling, you know, and I struggle a lot of the time, you know, anybody that knows me knows my story. This isn't all rainbows and unicorns for me. I'm still working out every single day. This is the reason that I do this work, is to keep myself on the straight and narrow. I still suffer the highs and the lows, you know. I still get down, I still get the kind of, I think because of the horrors of the world and probably my own life experience, the imprint that's left on me, I still find it very, very challenging, you know, but it's having that awareness, you know, to not bring it to the table and basically not spew it over your partner. The same is true coming from the other side, you know. We both have the awareness, we've had it for a long time, that if Jill is ever struggling and she's looking for somebody to struggle with, same results for me, you know. I many times in the past, I would look to pull her into that. And God bless her with her level of awareness, because she would basically just deflect me. I talk about jiu-jitsu jiu-jitsu. You know, I used to teach karate for a period of time, and somebody comes towards you, would basically take them out as force against force. But jiu-jitsu is fantastic because the energy comes towards you. Qigong as well, you know, the kind of soft ancient arts, the gentle martial arts where the energy comes towards you. What's the other one your man does? Not Steven Seagal, not that clown. Aikido, you know, where you basically accept the energy. You know, Qigong's the same, Tai Chi, and you deflect the energy and you take it in a different way. The amount of times where I've tried to take something to Jill because I'm struggling and looking for somebody to suffer with me, and she won't take it on board. She refuses to accept it on board. God bless her and well done to her. She'll basically take it by you. I remember a couple of years ago was probably the last time that I ever took anything to her, and I was really bad and I was really down and I was feeling really low and I was like, poor fucking me. And things were really, really difficult at this time. I can't remember exactly what was going on, but I just felt I was ill. I felt ill with the heaviness that was running about me. And nobody would ever know that because when I'm working with people or I'm helping people, then, you know, you just get on with it. And I remember upstairs and I managed to corner her, and this was my opportunity to basically say, like, I'm really fucking struggling here. I need your help, like do something. And I basically got it out. I was able to, and even for me to admit that is really difficult because I know how this goes together. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I was just looking for somebody. Maybe after my mum died, might have been something like that, but I was needing something, and I wasn't specific. Jill would never have known that I wasn't specific. But I remember taking it to her as if, like, I'm needing some help here. And she just kind of stood in front of me, and we caught in a rabbit in the headlights, you know. She just gets stuck, and then she was just like all right kind of thing, and then basically walked straight past me and went on her way, you know. And I was just standing there, and I got it instantly. It's like she was basically telling me to fuck off, like, go and work it out. You know how this goes together. Like, she probably had her own stuff going on at the time. Like, leave me alone, like, beat it and work it out for yourself, because that's what this is all about. Yeah, it's self-reliance that you teach, and that's what this is all about. So go and get it for yourself. So to get it for yourself, you know, to be in alignment first and foremost, and then to bring that to the table, to bring that to the team. Another great thing that I heard many, many years ago, it might have been Wayne Dyer, can't mind, and it was basically along the lines of, like, I'll look after me for you, and you look after you for me. You know, that's the ideal setup. You know, you're basically taking care of yourself first and foremost. You're living the life, which is all about feeling good and being happy and getting it for yourself first and foremost. That alignment first every single day before the day even begins. Big part of the programme, huge part of the way. And then you bring the very best version of you towards the family and the family unit and the Waynes and everything that comes together. That's a huge part of this, which is selfishness, you know, teaching selfishness, you first and then, get it for yourself first, a big part of this. And that's something that absolutely, you know, with marriage, I see it so often that people don't do that, especially mammies, you know, God bless you, especially mammies of a certain age, especially when the Waynes are just about getting ready to leave. They're in that transition phase where they're getting ready to leave. You know, they give everything away, that they give their whole life away, especially if they've been single parents. God bless you. God bless it, and thank you for the mammies out there, and the dads as well, obviously, but it's mostly mammies. That basically, you know, they get to a point where they've given everything to their Waynes. And that quote, Wayne Dyer, that your Waynes come through you, but they're not for you. The amount of times I've seen that, where the children are then ready to fly the nest, and the mammy's like, holy fuck, like, I've just gave everything. Like, thanks, you know, and what now? And then where did they even go for there? Because their whole identity over the previous 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50 years when they've been mammies, when it comes to time for the Waynes to fly the nest, then, you know, it's they can put a whole load of resentment there, all through a lack of awareness, you know, all through real ignorance to really realise how this goes together. So, you know, getting it for yourself, being selfish, how to attract the right person is absolutely huge. You know, how to get through that relationship and that, you know, constant expansion phase if you're on about this work, which you are obviously because you're listening to this. Having the awareness to see, you know, when to be in it, you know, when to back away from it, when they're getting it, you know, and when they're not getting it. How to never ever offer advice unless it's asked for. You know, how in terms of, you know, the support is great, absolutely, you know, to be there for them. But the minute you step in and say, here's what you need to do, with anybody, you know, and especially with your partner, that doesn't work too well either. I have found many times over the course of my life. You know, so a great thing to realise, and this is something that I keep with me all the time, is we're on the same team. We're on the same side. We're always in the same team, and that unit, that teamwork unit, you know, going in the same direction, again, it's hugely important. Where are you trying to get to? That holiday that we had together, one of the biggest kind of the biggest benefits and the biggest pluses that we had was the chance to actually stop and say, right, okay, look, where are we? Where are we going with this? What's next? We're at a stage now, my son's 23, my daughter's 21. They're at a phase over the next how many years it is, and loving them being here, and don't want that to change, but eventually it's obviously going to change, God willing. You know, they go on and find their own way with us, and their own relationships and their own families. But it's like, right, what's next for us? This stage we're getting into now, both in our 50s, the next 20, 30 years, God willing, you know, what are we going to do? How's it going to play out? So having that time together, you know, to realign our goals. Jill's had their own business for 25 years now. Jill bought the nursery, the children's nursery, about a month before we get married. So that's coming up in its 25th year anniversary. She's been on about that. And at the same time, I've been, you know, in the building trade and in my own business, the family business, and then the last, whatever it's been, 5 years probably full time in the Vortex. So all the different, you know, incarnations and expansions and, you know, different ways that all that has went together. You know, what's next for us over the next piece? How are we going to, you know, what are we going to do next? What's the plan further down the road when I'll never retire. Jill will never retire either. Eventually we'll both be working in the Vortex together. Absolutely anybody that's been on about Jill and what she brings to the Vortex, you know, that's obviously, you know, the way that it needs to go and is going to go. But just having that time to be in alignment and say, right, okay, that's the biggest thing. I come back for that holiday. We've got a plan. You know, we know what we want to do, and it doesn't matter like how long it takes you to get there. As long as you go in that right direction, as always, you need to keep moving forward towards the right direction. That's the most important part, you know. So the significance of meeting the right person, and to be in that right state, that right frame of mind, to be specific exactly to what you're looking for. The whole compromise, you know, it's like, I don't think that really works either. I really don't. Over the years and the experience I've had with people, when, you know, you meet people and you meet couples that there's too much of you know, the discrepancy or in terms of vibrationally or the belief system, or one likes to meditate, another one likes to drink and go and party. Like, that is never going to work. It just doesn't happen. The amount of times I've seen relationships stumble onto rocky waters when one of the partners gets on about this and one partner gets on an absolute like a metaphysical experience and gets into meditation, and they leave their old ways behind. You know, that's why I always say, if somebody's coming, if your partner's interested at all, then please bring them, you know, because what can happen is when you get through that first experience and switching off your stress and reconnecting back into your heart and back into your soul and remembering how you're able to feel, one of the biggest challenges is people going back to their own environment and back to their partners. They still expect the same version that left 4 hours earlier, getting back through the door, and this enlightened, you know, peaceful, happy, joyful, easy, nervous system, drama-free, switched off state, and then they get back into the lion's den, you know, where the partners just get the same demands and the same level of it's ignorance, isn't it? Because we don't know, and that's why it's so important for I believe, like marriages and partnerships and couples, if they're going to go on this journey, to do it together. Really important, and that's not obviously easy because of, you know, what's involved in it. I understand that as well, but really important. And, you know, one of the things I think about often is Michael and Fern. When the first day that they heard me speak at the Financial Freedom Summit in Glasgow, which is, what's that, 2 years ago now. And how they've spoke about it on the Squadcast, how they were virtually almost breaking up, at the point they were ready to be separated, you know. And then fast forward to 2 years, I've been on about the work for 2 years, around about me and the mission and the programme for the last couple of years, and they just get engaged when we was at the turn of the year. And now, you know, eventually marriage and children, and a recent conversation we had, you know, the thought of how that's the most important thing, you know, like children and marriage, and how much this work has changed their belief systems. They both came from, you know, separated families. And I remember how strong they felt at the time in terms of children, and almost like we wouldn't bring children into this world, which is exactly the right thing as to where they were at the time. But now when you see them together and how much love they've got for each other, and being in the same side, and all of a sudden, you know, the whole game changes, you know, because they've reconnected back to themselves, they've reconnected with each other, and then in that environment, then children's the next step. Of course it is, you know. That's how we break the chain, so you don't pay that forward, all the sins of their parents and other parents, and, you know, all the stuff, the damage that's been done because of the environment that people grow up in. We need to break the chains and get it back to the way that it's meant to be, you know. So being in the same team, you know, being in the same side, having like your needs met, your similar needs, you know, cuddles and, you know, expressing your love in different ways, That's the bit that's missing. It really is. And obviously, there's a big push everywhere for sex and lust. The sexualisation of everything. That's a complete opposite end of this. That isn't what this is. I'm all about the love. I'm all about union and honesty and trust. And being truthful and faith and all of that. Because that's the way that it's meant to be. And it's something that if we can bring it back, we bring back the companionship, we bring back like being, in each other's company and enjoying each other's company and being happy with each other without having to look elsewhere to have your needs fulfilled. It's the way that we get the world back to, or one of the ways that we help take the world back to the way that it's meant to be. So I'm excited for all of that. Really blessed, sitting here, 25 years married, never been happier, never been more in love. My best pal, my girl, just somebody that just an absolute blessing. She really is, and I know she feels the exact same way about me. I remember Jill saying a long time ago, right at the very beginning, I don't just love you, but I really like you. And that, even still, I can feel myself getting emotional just saying that out loud there. It's like, to actually really like somebody, and I love her more and I like her more than I've ever, in all the years we've known together. And that's really significantly and importantly because we're continuously expanding, we're continuously growing, we've never stopped. We're always doing new stuff, we're always looking to get involved in new things, we're always looking towards the future, but at the same time, over especially the last probably 10 years, we always had the desire to move away. And we would come back for holiday regularly and be like, oh man, like you wouldn't want to actually be here, and it would share your life experience. But I remember Jill saying many years ago, we need to enjoy this. And Abraham teaches that you need to basically be happy in your present situation, so you can, at the same time, being excited as to where you're heading, and hopefully with faith that's going to unfold one day. And that's certainly where we're at just now, excited for the future, delighted that we're still together, we're both healthy, we're both very, very happy, we're both inspiring a lot of people. I get that a lot in terms of when they see us together, especially the retreats, the ceremony retreats as well. Jill's normally on them preparing the food and doing our yoga and being on about people. And I'm very aware of that, and we have no filter in terms of expressing our love for each other. I remember the Sunday morning after the last ceremony where people were very slowly getting back together, and we had a Sunday morning meditation after the ceremony on the Saturday. And to break it up, because we'd had probably 25 hours of Dutta and Parajit and all the kind of, the holistic spiritual music up to this point. Before we started the meditation, everybody's sitting just emptied, rinsed out, like cleansed from the ceremony. And I had Coldplay on in the background. And Jill was sitting beside me, helping me over the whole course of the weekend. And she just got up and we started dancing. And before you knew it, the whole room, because it was, and at that point, there was only me and her in the room. That's all I could feel was just my love. I was not aware of anybody watching, or everybody was mostly sitting with their eyes like closed in meditation or trying to like put themselves back together again. But just us expressing that love for each other and showing it freely, and giving people the possibility to see what's available. If you do it this way, if you get on about this work and you're on about this intentional living, awareness, intention, the power of alignment, like really being steadfast and not settling for anything less, like really setting your goals about perfection. You're looking for perfection, why not? Why don't you set the stall off? When I say to people, like, what do you want in a partner? It's like, well, you're going to get, you want to be more specific than that, and then be very specific. And I think back to when I attracted Jill, she was just perfect. She was every single thing that I desired without knowing any of this stuff. So again, maybe there's a bit of luck in that, who knows, maybe it was just unconscious, the way that I did it. But, if you're looking for somebody, you want them to be perfect. Don't be, just accepting and taking their limitations or, the bits that come with them and just putting up with that. I wouldn't do that, because eventually further down the road, especially when children are involved, the stress and the pressure that can come with that, you want it to be perfect, so I'm all about the love, monogamy, trust, faith, just goodness, the way that it's meant to be, the way that God designed it, man and wife, male and female, marriage, the family unit, together, being together, going through it together, the highs and the lows, the ebbs and the flows, thick and thin, sick and sin, all of that, that's the way that it's meant to be. Is it easy? No, it's not, but it's so much better and it's so much easier than the way that it is just now. And the carnage and the absolute just madness and literal, insanity that we see, the amount of these young ones that are growing up with none of that. and they've never even seen it. They've never been in that family environment, you know, no mum, no dad a lot of the times, basically raising themselves. If the mammy's out working 2 jobs to try and put food on the table, if the dad's not available, or the other way around, you know, they're basically getting raised with fucking Google and on their phones and these games that they're watching online, you know, so that obviously doesn't work, and it's something that needs to be fixed, you know. So I'm all about the marriage, all about the love, together as one. As I started for 10, the family unit, bringing it back, making it normal, making it the way that it's meant to be, you know, making it the natural way that it's meant to be, which is what it is. It's how we start to get things back on an even keel again at some point, you know. So hopefully this has helped, hopefully this inspired you. If you're with the right person, if you are in that position where you're not quite sure, again, it's follow your heart, you know, trust your heart and you'll never ever be wrong. One of the biggest things, the biggest challenge that I see is the amount of people that get caught up in the whole fucking wedding, you know, and the money that's involved in a wedding and the absolute literal circus that goes on and what needs to be at the wedding, you know, between the fucking bands and the drummers and the magicians and the fucking all these reveals, and it's like, it's just a circus, you know. It's like, my advice to anybody, I might have actually said this to Michael and Fern, I would book a fucking flight somewhere to a beach and I would say to everybody that you love, this is where we're going to be at this time on this day. You're more than welcome to come if you can make it. If you can't, it's all good. The thought of putting yourself, whatever it is, 30, 40, 50 grand, some people, more than that, in debt for one day, you know, so they can get their Facebook pictures, and again, that's not what it's about. It's not what it's about, because long after that's done and dusted, and long after you get the likes on Facebook and the significance for that, what's going to be left, you know, the real foundations of your marriage, you know, once you strip all that away and you get to the real stuff, you know, it's the basics, you know, it's a love and it's a connection and it's a being in it together on the same side, in the same team, moving forward together in life and being ready for whatever life throws at you. It's a wonderful place to be. I am so into marriage, I love it. So giving thanks to my wife for the last 33 years, for the last 25 we've been together legally, and looking forward to the next bit very much. Excited for what's about to unfold for both of us as we continue to expand on this journey together. And my plan is to keep sharing this, you know, keep talking about it, and try to make it as normal and as real as I can for anybody, so that hopefully as we have experience with Mick and Fern, then you turn it around and it goes from probably never to absolutely and looking forward to it, you know, and that to me is what it's all about, you know. So marriage number 47, the Darkness to Light Godcast. Love and light to you and yours. Peace out. Have a fantastic day wherever you are. See you soon, and bye for now.